Welcome to the Reality Revolution podcast. Coming to you from the void, this is your host, Brian Scott. This podcast is dedicated to the spirits who believe life is meant to be magical and fun. It contains advanced viewpoints for the multidimensional human beings of the 21st century. Here we venture to share the mysteries of self and reality. Our primary purpose is to reawaken your sense of fascination and awe towards life, to shatter your rigid belief systems and ways of seeing the world. My goal is to hack your reality, to help you hack reality and unleash your potential and open unlimited possibilities of wealth, health, and relationships in your life, to explore the mysteries of the universe. The world is changing. It's coming into a quantum event. We're slowly learning the true power of our minds to create reality as we know it. And this is what we're talking about on this podcast. I'm so happy that you're joining me today. Today's episode is about energy, the way it relates to manifesting your dreams, changing your realities. Probably the most important thing outside of understanding your subconscious mind is energy. A lot of times we forget about energy. We go about the day and we get tired and we get grumpy and we don't realize the absolute power of energy and the essential understanding that is needed for anybody that ventures into a greater understanding of how to make themselves better, more effective at whatever they want to do. Energy is everywhere. Energy is all things. We are all energy. Remember, your skin and your body is not solid. It's an interplay of a bunch of quantum particles vibrating, sometimes at the speed of light, creating what feels like to you a solid surface. But whatever you're sitting next to, if you're on a couch or in a car, the fabric around you is all energy as well, vibrating at a different string, a different pace. And so all around us, all the objects, the air, everything around us is energy. Everything is energy. The physical universe with its space and time, its objects, nature, people, and planets is all energy. The non-physical universe of thought, emotion, spirit, and various planes is also energy. This singular energy manifests spectrally in many different forms, shapes, qualities, radiations, and densities. An analogy to think about energy is steam, water, and ice are really all one thing, but they manifest in different qualities. So there's several things we're going to talk about. We've talked about what energy is. We're going to talk about the levels of energy. We're going to talk about energy cords. We're going to talk about chakras. We're going to talk about geomagnetics. We're going to talk about protecting ourselves from negative energy. And using this knowledge, at the end, what I'm going to do is provide you a surprise, something I've been working on for a long time. It's a 15-minute routine. If you do it before you meditate in the morning, if you do it when you wake up, it's going to transform your life. It's going to give you so much energy. It is literally better than 20 coffees. I've tried to hack my particular routine multiple times, and I've tried multiple different routines in different orders. I've tried not having a routine. I have found a routine that is so incredible. And when I introduce it to you, it's so easy. It's not hard. This is not a workout. This is a set of movements that you can make in the morning. If you want to do it before you meditate, you will have so much energy. And I'm really excited to go over that with you. But first, we're going to go over everything else and where it all comes from. So the first thing we're going to talk about is energy cords. When people talk about energy, your first thought is being tired or being awake. And energy is a lot more than that. And there's so many different forms of energy all around us on so many different levels, frequencies, and vibrations. So when we have an understanding of string theory, and particularly in quantum physics, the idea of quantum entanglement, there is the idea that everything is connected. At one point in time, right before the Big Bang, the universe was no bigger than a pea, and it was all smushed together into this one tiny, incredible object. Could you imagine? Now that would be incredible, just to have seen this tiny object that explodes into the Big Bang. But at that point in time, all those molecules and chemicals and electrons and neutrons were all so compact, they were entangled. So the entire universe itself is entangled. We can see the effect of entanglement just in lab experiments. When quantum particles are separated for long distance, they are affected by each other faster than light speed, instantaneously, as if they are in the same system. We are a quantum coherent system of cells and nerves and molecules that we have with our bodies. And it's simply the coherence of them all staying together in this one place as a body, which makes us who we are. Well, many of these particles that are out in space are commingled and entangled in the same way that we are with our body. And our body is also commingled and attached to different things throughout the universe. When you look up at the night sky and you look at the stars, each star has a tiny invisible thread. If you could see it, it's beautiful. That all connects to you. All those stars, those threads are all connected to you. Now we have different cords of energy all around us. We have some that are very strong. When we're born, we have a cord that's attached to our mother. And so we always have that cord. And even when that cord is detached, we have that energetic connection for a very long time after we're born. And you can tell this, and that's why the people, when they grow up, the way they have interactions with their mother, they always have this energetic attachment that goes all the way back to our youth. You can gain attachment with things and people and places all the time without your knowledge. So a natural attraction to a person, thing, idea, inherent likeness or agreement, also it signifies a close resemblance or connection. So if something's similar in frequency or it's similar, there's always a cord, a link that is stronger than others. In the realm of chemistry, affinity is the force by which atoms are held together. So the idea of affinity and energy strands having an affinity for one another is an important thing to understand. So the way I use the word positive affinity, which means it can increase energy, and something has negative affinity, which depletes energy. And strands can both reduce your energy or can increase your energy. And sometimes they work two ways, sometimes they work one way, sometimes it's hard to define. They work back and forth but unevenly. They can be infinitesimally thin, but the idea to understand is they exist. These cords, these strings, like microfilaments or spider webs. They can be bigger and stronger, like thick ropes of energy. They can be flexible, flowing and softly. They can be rigid and seemingly immovable. They can be clear, iridescent, and shimmering with light. Or they can be dull, sticky, dense, and murky. Energy strands are not just the etheric and astral cords of connection between people, events, places, and objects. They also serve as a pathway for subconsciously sending and receiving energy and information to and from the people, places, events, and objects around us. Here's how it works between people. When you form a relationship with somebody, either negative or positive, malleable energy filaments link you to the other person and them to you, and consequently information, emotions, and energy frequencies transfer between the two of you. Highly intuitive people, shamans from ancient cultures and native lands are often able to see or sense these strands. I believe I can see these strands. Sometimes the strands emanate from the solar plexus. As I mentioned, other times they radiate out from other places in the body. There's a particular energy strand that is mentioned by Vadim Zeland and in his most recent book, Tufti the Princess. And it's very fascinating, the idea that there is a plate flowing from the back of our head. And there is some yogic examples of that. So I'm going to probably go over that later. But we form these energy cords to pendulums as well. To our favorite team, to our favorite group, to our favorite family. We give and take energy to these pendulums. That's how they receive energy. And sometimes they give us energy back as a part of the process. Most of the time, the pendulum is taking more than it's receiving. You can be energized or depleted by what streams between you and another person or group, in much the way that the ocean ebbs and flows. Sometimes you're giving energy, And sometimes you're receiving it through your cords. And sometimes you and another person are giving it and receiving at the same time. Have you ever felt exhausted and drained after chatting with somebody, but they seem vibrant and energized? This could be the result of an energy strained drain. In other words, the energy transitioned from you to that person, but there wasn't an ebbing back to you. And it was a one-way journey. Hence, you felt depleted. Energy strands of attachment exist between you and almost everyone with whom you've ever been in a relationship. Sometimes these strands are so thin that they barely are a whisper, and sometimes they're like the Los Angeles freeway. Information, energy, loving feelings, toxic thoughts can flow back and forth through these strands of energy. So you ever get, you don't feel good on a particular day, who knows? It could be a past relationship that you had. You don't even know what's going on, but you're connected energetically. Everything has consciousness is one of the rules to understand. And more quantum physics shows this possibility. Everything, every object around you has consciousness. And therefore, you could have energetic links to everything around you. The books, the computer, the wall, the art, everything around you. One of the reasons that I argue that books are such incredible things is that books can create a very positive cord of energy because it's an experience. If the book is positive, even if you're not reading the book, it's like a lifeline of free energy that you get that pulls you back experientially as well. When you have these connections, it's very powerful and you may not know. For example, you might have the same thought or emotion at the same time as someone that you're cord connected to. Or you might go to the same location at the same time or purchase the same object or intuitively know what they're doing or feeling. When the cord is strong, even if that individual is half a planet away, you still may be aware of their emotions, their physical pain, or their thoughts. Because the strands that unite you, sometimes strands can grow and become even more solidified, even if you're not in physical contact with the person. You may feel their emotions as your emotions, and even feel their thoughts as your thoughts, especially if you are a strong sender or open receiver. When you are in close physical proximity, the energy currents between you strengthen, and even act as magnets pulling you together. So that's the idea with these patterns of energy, these cords, these links. And you can start going through your life and think about the things that are important to you, the things that you think of that affect your energy, and you can choose to cut the cord or strings that are connecting you to ones that are not working for you. So 3 tenets underlie everything that you're exploring regarding energy that flows in and out of you. Everything is composed of constantly changing energy. So 1, everything is composed of constantly changing energy. Those living in ancient earth-based cultures understood that all forms of life, from the clouds to the trees, to the buffalo that roamed the Great Plains, to the mountains and stones, were all transient, swirling patterns of energy. This is an understanding that goes back to primordial times and native clans spanning the world. Our present-day concept that the universe is fixed and stayed is dramatically at odds with this fundamentally ancestral insight. We are immersed in an ocean of energy that flows and moves in constant, ever-changing undulations through time and space. All life is energy. Physicists acknowledge that atoms and molecules, even in objects that seem solid, are in constant motion, as I said before. Beneath the surface of fixed objects existing in a linear river of time and a nonlinear pool of time is a realm of energy that swirls, dissolves, and coalesces once again. There's an innate harmony and cosmic order apparent in all life, as waves of energy and pulsating electrons spiral into and out of existence. The world around us is an interplay of these patterns of energy in an ever-flowing relationship. It is a dance of 2 opposing yet harmonious forces in the universe, yin and yang, the mystery and form, an infinite yet patterned timeless drama of dark and light. The second rule is that we are not separate from the world around us. As we become closer and closer to new technology and we start looking and depending on our phones, we've forgotten the primordial wisdom that all creatures and all things on our planet are connected. We intuitively know this, but we have separated ourselves. We've forgotten that we're connected with a living universe that sings with life and pulses with intensity of spirit. We've forgotten that everyone and everything has a conscious spirit, and that we are all manifestations of pure energy, forever fluctuating. It's essential to make the journey back to a connected view of reality, of oneness that is innately natural to you as your connection to your mother in her womb. To remember that there is nothing out there that isn't you. Much of this we can't fully understand on an intellectual level. Inside of us is a longing, yearning, and a remembering of that exquisite place of oneness, unity beyond time and space. We can't put it into words. However, deep inside each of us, we all know this. Many of the difficulties people experience in the modern world stem from an erroneous belief, the idea that we are separate beings, and we are not separate beings. Energy flows through you now. Ask yourself, do you feel energetic? Do you feel okay? What kind of energy do you have in the morning and at night? These are questions sometimes that you don't ask yourself. So the third rule is that everything has consciousness. As I mentioned before, everything is conscious. The stones, the mountains, the rivers. And of course, that was an ancient belief too. But by believing this, you can access these energy fields and become aware of the links of the items that are around you. It's pretty incredible. The next thing I want to talk about is the levels of energy. We are all kind of stuck on a scale of energy. And there's been several writers that have written about this. Frederick Dotson, I think, has the best scale. It's between 1 and 1,000. His is based on David Hawking's work of a scale of consciousness. And also, Hindus have a level of energy. There's a Theosophist scale. I'm going to go over these because it's a good way to understand the different kinds of energy and the place that you are at. And once you become aware of this chart, you start to see the differences. You'll start to give people a numerical expression for the place that they're at. And it's not stereotyping. The truly incredible thing about this is that this is very real. So to start off with, on a level of 30 or below, you have the energy of guilt, shame, psychosis, humiliation, or hatred. Moving up on level 50, so you get beyond those things, level 50 is apathy, despair, depression, or hopelessness. And once you move from that, you're at level 100, which is, I think a lot of people are stuck at this particular level. And if they can't get past it, they remain at that level of energy. And that's fear, worry, shyness, inferiority, and paranoia. So moving to level 120 is craving, need, compulsion, unfulfilled desires. It's still a fairly high level. When they're moving all the way to 160, meaning that you've gotten rid of those craving, you're above all of these other emotions, that's when you move into anger and domination and aggression and coldness. And of course, we have a lot of people in this world that never leave this area. But if you can move past it, you're still given the energies of antagonism or criticism, discontent, complaint, blame. And then moving to 190 is pride, superiority, and arrogance. 200 is contentment, routine, functionality, boredom, low levels of energy, but much higher than those others. 275 is courage, relaxation, eagerness, and fun. But you go to 320 and then there's willingness, kindness, and optimism. And then 400 is acceptance, interest, attention, neutrality. 450 is intelligence, knowledge, and reason. Then it moves up to 475 where there's joy, creativity, and then 505 is beauty, creativity, imagination. 510 is power, initiative, integrity. Moving up to 530 is love, intuition. 540 is humor and happiness. 550 is unconditional love. If you can move to 570, there's ecstasy and exaltation, and 600 is bliss, peace. 700 is oneness, non-duality, non-separation from everyone. Now, there may be more refinement to the scale, but beyond that, to 1,000 is infinity. The Theosophists break it into the physical plane being 0 to 1,000, the lower astral plane being above that. Anything from above the 1,000 is beyond the physical plane. The lower astral plane is 0 to 160. The mid-astral is 160 to 275. I believe that it goes to the mental plane, which is 475. The Buddhic plane is like 600. And then the Atmic plane is like 740. And then the Hinduism scale starts from tamas at 0 to 199 all the way up to moksha, which is 600 plus. So David Hawkins is similar as well. But the idea is there's these levels of energy. They may be a level of consciousness or vibration, but in terms of what we're talking about today, we're talking about energy. And I think that when you start to be aware of that, once I started to become aware of these levels, when I would talk to a group of kids, I could soon figure out that they were 150 or 120, and I can completely change the way that I would speak to that group. And if it's, level 400 to me is like actors. If I'm in a group that's a higher level, I completely communicate with them, because there are certain levels that they simply cannot understand. For instance, they would never even know about this podcast. It would not be attracted to their world. And if this was a book, they would never see it. The level that they're at, they're incapable of being energetically entwined with higher level thinking on any level. So it's an interesting thing to keep an eye on and understand. And by understanding these energy levels, you tune in and tap into higher energies, which can help you float into greater manifestations. There's different forces that are usually working for and against each other up and down the scale. Vain versus pride, being more versus being less, important versus nobody, admired versus looked down, status, noticed versus ignored, special versus ordinary, accumulation versus growth, acquisition versus savor, remembering against reflect. There's a lot of duality that goes into this. But the idea is we all want to get to the 700. We all want to get to that point where we are not separate. And we can access these energies, and these energies are truly powerful and divine. So the next thing that I wanted to talk about is, once we understand these kind of energies, remember, you're affected by the energies around you and the energies within you. And if you want to manifest the things in your life, then you need to manifest with energy. When you look in quantum physics, the idea of quantum jumping is when one electron changes orbit, and the only precedence that it can move from a fixed orbit to a better orbit is with energy. And so to build that energy, as I have shown in some of my meditations, you build the energy at the beginning of your meditation. If you want to do some sort of quantum jump or some sort of transformation through the void, you can do those things. So the idea is, now that we've talked about that, what do you do with these energies? There's obviously good energies, there's bad energies. And I think there could be bad or negative energies that are around your house or in your room. We all talk about it, we all think about it, but what do you do to get rid of these energies? I'm not saying that they're demons, but they're energies. How do you find a way to clear these energies? And it's probably a good idea to clear the energies in any room that you decide to meditate in, as long and to up to some level that you understand. If you're thinking of it as an atheist purely on a scientific level, if you activate the particles in a particular area, it seems to awaken it. So one thing, if you ever move into a house or you have a room, what I recommend is clapping. Go around to different corners of the house and just clap. Do not touch anything with your hands. Go around and clap in the areas that you want, around windows and corners, and then just wash your hands. I have heard the most powerful and effective way to get rid of negative entities and negative energies, if you believe in them, is to laugh. That laughing scares them away. But looking at the old masters, you can see the different things that have been used that can cleanse an energy. And there's great energy cleansing programs offered on the internet by people that are incredibly good at it. Denise Lin has a book called Energy Strands and has an excellent section on ways that you can cleanse and clear the energies in your room. But going back all the way to Dion Fortune, who was an old writer from the 1800s through the 20th century, that wrote about spiritual practices to cleanse a room and yourself. And you should read her book, Psychic Protection. The idea is that salt is also pretty powerful, that if put in certain places. And in that book, there's a recipe to make your own holy water if you follow the process. But there is a very good exercise just to encompassing yourself in somewhat of a cleansing circle by just swooping your hands around and visualizing in your mind that you're enclosed in a protective space. A lot of times what you're doing when you're cleansing is you're doing something in your mind symbolically, that you are saying, since you are the one that has the power to do this, you are saying that I'm cleansing it, and it gives you a means to do that. It gives you a way of doing that. One of the very interesting books that I've read that I recommend is by Damien Echols, and he has a book on magical practices. And it was the second time I'd been exposed to this, but if you go back and read old occult books by the Golden Dawn, an secret society that was formed in the last century that was kept secret, they would experiment with different techniques. And they have a technique for banishing negative energies. Some people may not like it. It has religious connotations, and if that's outside of your purview, then you shouldn't do it. But people have reported that it works, that you don't have to believe it. And that particular lesser banishing ritual that is outlined in Damien Echols' book is very powerfully described, and it just is, you go around and create a circle and call upon four corners of the circle to have angels come to protect you. And if that's something that is within your wheelhouse and you believe in, that particular ritual, when exercised with something called the middle pillar, is supposed to really cleanse your energy. The truth of it is, I don't know. I've certainly tried that ritual, and I've tried the middle pillar ritual, and I do think that there is something to it. They're very powerful. According to Damien Echols, it is the number one way to control and manipulate energy. And the reason Damien Echols is interesting is he was accused of murder and was on death row and had to survive incredibly terrible situation. And the way that he was able to survive was he used magic and magical practices to control his mind and overcome really bad circumstances. And it came to be a way for him to deal with it psychologically. So it's an interesting book, and I do recommend it. And that's one way to cleanse energy. The other is smoke. People have reported using just incense or smudging or different kinds of sage, which can be burned to cleanse a room. One technique that I found, there's a technique on YouTube where you mix just a little bit of oil, salt, and water in a pan, and then you torch it and let the fire burn in the room, and it's supposed to eradicate negative energy. I've done it. Now, I'm not somebody that claims to know if the energy was actually cleansed, but if you do something symbolically every once in a while, I think it's a good idea. In your mind, this energy, this area is cleansed. And that's all that really matters. The next thing to understand is the energy that you have in your body. We will talk about biohacking your body to get energy a little bit here at the end. But the interesting conversation that comes up is the idea of chakras. And you see different references. Chakra has a connotation to it, kind of a new agey woo-woo. And the truth of it is, these are nerve bundles of true energy centers in the body that flow along the spine, up from the bottom of your body to the top. And they all have unique characteristics that affect the way that you go about your day and your way your body functions and the things that you do. And usually you hear about 7 chakras. There's actually many more than that. For instance, you have the soul star chakra, which is situated outside of your body. It's about 6 inches above your crown chakra, which is below at the very crown of your head. And this is located in the middle of the top of the head. And this is one of the main energy centers within the body, and it concerns devotion, unity, spirituality, and self-reason. And many people say that if spirits enter or leave, you enter through that point. So this may also include a connection with the spirit world or the higher self. Maybe that's where that happens. Now, I've heard people argue that you have to have the previous chakra open for each one to open. I think that they can all open independently. But the next one is the third eye. If you refer to my podcast on the pineal gland, there's a discussion of that, and there are ways to open it. And I do believe that it gives us a direct access to source of greater understanding and knowing. It's associated with intuition, seeing things as they really are, and spiritual insights. It tends to get a lot of attention, as many want these type of skills and spiritual gifts in their life. So then you move from the third eye to the throat chakra, and that's related. This is typically associated with speaking your truth. And if you're unable to speak your truth, maybe that particular chakra has not been developed and opened. It's a part of you that speaks and puts yourself out there. Then there's the Thymus Chakra, which is located slightly above the thymus gland, which is located roughly between the heart and the throat chakra. This chakra is one of my favorite. It works with, if you work on it and focus on it, it is associated with compassion for self, forgiveness, and increasing and maintaining vitality and well-being. The heart chakra, I believe, is the most powerful and important chakra in the body. It's directly connected to the subconscious mind. It's located roughly in the center of the chest, close to the heart. It's not the heart, but it's close. This chakra it's associated with compassion, acceptance, forgiveness. I don't think that you can truly love without a fully open heart chakra. The energies of love and compassion, when you have those energies, that could mean that chakra, that energy center, is working properly. Then there's the solar plexus, which is located roughly between the solar plexus and the navel, and it's often referred to as the powerhouse chakra. It's the center of your personality and the functioning well. It gives off a lot of energy. It's associated with people that have personal power and magnetism and force of will. And it's very important to give you personal power in the world. And there's the sacral chakra, which is located between the navel and the perineum. And it's associated with emotions and expressing sexuality. Then there's the base chakra, located in the perineum area, which is roughly between the anus and the genitals. And it's associated with grounding and how you feel life takes care of you. Survival. And then there's the Earth Star Chakra, which is below your body. It's situated 6 inches beneath the soles of your feet. People forget about the Earth Star Chakra and the Soul Star Chakra. But there's one more chakra that is very interesting to me because it's mentioned by Vadim Zeland in his most recent book. The plate, which is an energy center behind the head that doesn't go down the spine, but actually like a cord extends outward from your body. And in that particular book, he talks about reflecting your intentions, your true desires, your intentions into that, what he calls a plate. When I looked up the word plate, it kind of stands for a braid, but a braid of energy that's attached to the back of your head. I tried this experiment, and I'd sent just recently, and there's something to it, and it's interesting. And so I tried to look at where this had come from, where the Zealand had got the idea for it. Quasi said that it was possibly the umbrage point that's discussed by Carlos Castaneda, and he did make a good point. And someone else said that it could be related to Tantra. I noticed the Bindu Chakra could be what they're talking about. And so the Bindu Chakra, a lot of people don't know about, and it's pretty fascinating. It's on a more advanced phase of development. It's, yogis with shaved hair for a tiny area close to the top of their head with a ponytail. They're focusing on that particular chakra. And It's a metaphysical chakra, a primal point of appearance of clear consciousness that exists beyond time and space, energy, matter, or form. It represents very subtle levels of consciousness. The subtle pranic energy that flows through this chakra is concentrated into drops, elixir, and winds. The Bindu is the point where we gain true experience about the divine, because here the many forms of manifestation cease to be observed as such. Here we are faced with the infinite as one, not as many. The Bindu is located on the back of the head near the top. It's placed behind the place where most people have a lock of hair growing in the opposite direction from the rest of their hair. And what he refers to is it's like a limb, an artificial limb that we've had severed, but we are still aware of this thing of energy. And if you just focus on it right now, you can notice this little thing of energy, and it holds our life force within. It's the center of where our life nectar is located, according to texts about the chakra. So I know the chakras are kind of, for some people, they are rolling their eyes right now, and that's fine. But it is a method of understanding how energy is both radiated outward and inwards through your body. There's also mudras, which are hand exercises and tongue exercises. There's putting your tongue up to the roof of your mouth. The baga can activate these particular chakras. It's pretty interesting. And so there are a number of meditations. I'll create one soon that will focus on awakening your chakras, each one separately, linking them together all the way up your body to the roof of your head, to the crown and out, and getting a balance and understanding what they truly are and focusing in and feeling them. And if we can do that, we can do some pretty cool things. And I've noticed that people can really transform if they focus on these particular energies. The energies of those lower chakras all the way up to the solar plexus are really rooted in energy that is as a particle. And once you get to the energy of wave of possibilities, that's in the heart, in the throat, in the third eye. So the higher you go up your body, the more powerful the energy is, because it's quantum level. It's a wave instead of a particle. It's energy instead of matter. And that is what if we can utilize that particular energy, greater things can happen for us. We can maneuver through more fantastic realities. So the thing I promised that I'm excited to describe to you a little bit more, and I will do a separate podcast where I will run through the instructions on this and a meditation, and we'll try to get it down to 25 minutes so that you can do these exercises in 10, 12 minutes, and then you can do the meditation in 10 minutes. And I'm trying to create something that you can knock out in 24 minutes. That's my goal. I'm giving myself 25. The idea, it depends on how much time you take to do these exercises. But there's 2 different sets of exercises that you do together, and the combination of these 2 is so powerful. I promise you that if you do this for even 7 days, I'm telling you, if you can do it for 21, that's where the habit really kicks in. But it's the combination of the 5 Tibetan rites. So the 5 Tibetan rites, I'll give you a little explanation here. But then, by that, it's also attached to a Qigong routine called knocking the doors of life. Knocking on the door of life. And I'm going to give you a really quick explanation of these. If you want to start experimenting with it, I may try to put a link on my podcast with an explanation of each of these. And if you just start with the 5 Tibetans, and then you do knocking on the door of life, you do not need to be in shape. Anybody can do these, and I'll give you a workaround for the hardest of the Tibetan rites. But there's an interesting history behind the 5 Tibetans. They're said to be a form of Tibetan yoga similar to the yoga series that originated in India. However, the 5 rites and traditional Tibetan yoga both emphasize a continuous sequence of movement. So the 5 Tibetan rites are also referred to as the 5 rites, or the 5 Tibetans, or the 5 rites of rejuvenation. In his book, Kelder Peter Kelder, who published this book in 1939 called The Eye of Revelation. He claims that while stationed in India, British Army officer Colonel Bradford, a pseudonym from what I can tell, heard a story about a group of lamas who had apparently discovered the fountain of youth. And the wandering natives, as he called them, told him of old men who inexplicably became healthy, strong, and full of vigor and virility after entering a particular lamasery. So after retiring, Kelder's Colonel Bradford went on to discover the lamasery and lived with the lamas, where they taught him these 5 exercises, which they called rites. And according to the booklet he described, 7 spinning psychic vortexes. So we have our 10 or 11 chakras that we've now gone over. But then we also have these 7 vortexes. And I'll talk about that a little bit more. But the book identifies on an image that there is these psychic within the body. 2 of these are in the brain, 1 at the base of the throat, 1 on the right side of the body, in the vicinity of the liver. 1 is in the reproductive anatomy and 1 in each knee. And as we grow older, the spin rate of these vortexes diminishes, resulting in ill health. However, the spin rate of these vortexes can be restored by performing the 5 rites daily, resulting in improved health. I don't know how much of the spinning vortexes is, but on a scientific level, I can see that, maybe it's good to maneuver and get your balance going in the morning. So I'll explain what that means. So, and he was also given a 6th rite. I do try to incorporate the 6th rite, but this is basically, he got the idea when he saw, you see whirling dervishes or spinners at Grateful Dead concerts. And there's something about the spin from left to right in a clockwise direction and the orientation of the palms. And there's something spiritual about it. So essentially with the 5 Tibetans, you start out with your arms extended out to the sides, palms down. And you relax your shoulders and bring the arms in line with the shoulders, turn in place in a clockwise direction. Focus on taking your vision on a single point straight ahead to avoid dizziness. After the exercise, you take 3 deep breaths, and then you, with hands together and raise arms on the inhale, exhaling, lowering arms out the sides and down. So you start to spin clockwise. You can do it for 21 times. So you spin with your arms out clockwise. You might get dizzy. Some people have a hard time doing it at the beginning. The second is you then lay down, lie with your arms flat. You just do leg lifts, basically. Palms down, breathe in roughly through the nose. At the same time, lift the legs off the ground, keeping legs straight. Anybody can do leg lifts. Relax the muscles for a moment, and then you repeat. You try to do each one 21 times. At the beginning, you might only be able to do 3. So the third exercise is you kneel on your knees, and then you just, with your under hips and toes tucked, hands to support the lower back, you lean back and breathe out and lower your chin toward your chest, and then breathe, and you extend back. And you do this 21 times. You stretch back out and then in. And then the fourth exercise, you sit with the legs extended in front of you, your feet hip width apart, palms are placed alongside the body, fingers pointing forward. Breathe out and tuck chin in toward the chest, while slowly breathing in, raise the torso, the side buttock forward and the left hips off the ground, and drop your head back while holding the position. This is the part that gets most people at a tough point. There is a workaround. If you can just lean your upper back on a bed or chair, and you can just lift your legs up and down, you can do it that way, and you can get away with it. They talk about in the original book that there were people that simply couldn't do this at the beginning. So do that, and it's actually pretty easy. So I even recommend doing that. And then you start in downward dog, if anybody has done P90X, but you do that position where your butt is in the air, where your legs are straight, you kind of stretch yourself out, and you just do a sun, you basically just, from that position, you then move up into a sun salutation where you are with your lower part of your body down and your back stretched up and your face looking up at the ceiling. And you're stretching your lower back. Try to do that as many times as you can. 21. It's not hard. And you can do some version of it sometime. So after you've done the 5 Tibetans, you do knocking on the door of life. So this is the Qigong exercise in the morning that you can do. And if you can't do the 5 Tibetans, if you can do a portion of them and then try to do some of this exercise, it's great. So bring your feet in, standing sort of with the start slow turning motion from the hips. Just going back and forth, keeping the shoulders, arms, and upper back relaxed. Let the momentum from the center of your body move your arms as you continue. Let your arms gently knock across your lower back and across your abdomen, knocking the doors of life. So what this does is it stimulates pressure point called the Mingmen, or the door of life, located directly below the navel on the spine. This point enhances overall vitality and energizes the central nervous system. You do that 7 times. You allow the movement to slowly unwind and bring your arms back to your sides. You breathe naturally. And then you start tapping with loose fists over your lower back area. Start as high as you can, comfortable, reach down to your lower back and work your way down to your tailbone. So you start on your lower back area and you just tap on it. And you go down all the way and then you start slapping your outside of your legs down to your feet, and then inside all the way up to your chest. And then, like Tarzan, you just stimulate your chest by knocking on your chest, sternum in the center with light fists. And then you do this 3 times. And then once you've done that, then you can slap the outside of your right arm through your neck and shoulder area back down to your arm, and then slap the other side of your arm. So you just kind of wake up the blood flow in your arm. And if you do that, and then the final thing is that you just kind of go into a very slow type of squat, pulling energy from up above or making the hand movement, and then pulling it from down below. And you do about 7 to 21 of those. All right? And then the final process is a tiny versing of energy psychology. And the idea is that you just make a slow, relaxing tap on your cheeks around next to your nose, and then down into your chest, on the top of your chest, and then on your sides, you just tap it on it, just slowly tapping on your sides, and then you are done. That takes about 10 to 12 minutes. And if you do that, your body will wake up. The energy that you have stored in your body, you'll give it some more vitality. And it's very, very powerful. The next way we can modulate our energy is through eating. And so, how do we do that? If you eat too late, you're too tired in the morning, it's very different for most people. There's a lot of different diets, and there's a lot of different ways that it can affect you. We obviously need food to create energy, but we don't necessarily need to eat as much as we have now. And it's okay if you want to not eat for a given period of time. A couple biohacks that I recommend that you do that's going to give you energy. Try the 30-day no sugar challenge, and you will be blown away by what happens when you cut sugar out. It will that means sugar in all things. That includes noodles, that includes white rice. Cut out sugar. It will boost your energy. It'll burn fat. It'll increase your testosterone. It'll upgrade your focus. It's incredible. I was just reading about British politician Tom Watson, who just got off sugar, and how much it had blown his mind. It did with me. And so the next thing that you want to do, it's a simple hack, is try to eat organic. Your grandmother had it made because she could locally source her food, pesticides free. She could go to the local market and get food that was local, and there was organic meats, and they didn't have pesticides and chemicals, and the eggs had deep orange yolks, and the meat was grass-fed, and fish was wild. Those old days, that meat worked. Now we don't have that, and we do have the opportunity. And I do think that just that will give you better energy when you're not exposed to these chemicals. Understand that stress is going to be a negative reduction in your energy. Stress is produced by cortisol, so you want to find a way to hack the stress that you get. And you can look at what the military does. Soldiers learn to function and make smart decisions under extraordinary duress. There's ways that you can biohack like a soldier, and that's monitoring feedback for how your body is responding, visualization techniques, breathing techniques to modulate your stress response. Another interesting hack is to add ice. In the morning when you wake up, if you get under a cold shower, if you add ice to your workouts, the ice really reduces inflammation and increases your energy. It recovers faster, but the energy increase is a net gain. Have your genetics tested. Sometimes you can do that, and you can develop foods, and you can take diets and make changes in your life based on your specific genetic variable and your blood type. Your blood type is also very indicative of what kind of foods will give you more energy. And there's several books out there that you can get that talk about what kind of diet that you can have specific to your blood type. I would customize your pre and post workout meals, and if you do that, if you time it out, that's something that can give you energy if you're exercising and working out. I do think that the key to energy is to get the best sleep. Find a way to get your body into sleep. Hack the sleeping system. Read about the best sleep supplements and the ways to sleep, and do the best possible routines. Keep your temperature at around 68 degrees. Try to figure out if it's best for you to drink water or not to drink water. And try to reduce any lighting in the room that you have. And so there's different things, and there's incredible research on it, and try to get yourself the best sleep. And we'll try to do a podcast on how to hack your sleep routine in the future. Drink lots of water. The water allows their body to process energy faster. The vibrations of water are pure. And if you are aware of your connections to the energy around you, water can give you greater control over that. And also, if you have the means to do it, if you can do it, then there is cheap forms of lab testing that you can get done. If you read about Tim Ferriss, you can test your biology after you eat certain meals, after you do certain workouts. You can really get to understand the way your body's reacting to the foods and the exercises that you're doing, and you can really take control of your energy. So there are some different things about energy. We've talked about energy cords. We've talked about levels of energy. We've talked about the chakras. We will certainly talk about several of these. What we're going to try to do is create a podcast that is going to go over step by step to discuss each of these particular workout routines. And then I will give a 10-minute priming meditation. I'll also try to put this in video form soon. But it's something that if you do in the morning, and I can get it at 24 minutes, maybe, just maybe, it can take you from where you're at to something even better on an energetic and spiritual level. And I would love to give you that for free, and I'll figure out a way to do that. So I just want to thank you for spending this time with me. It is always an honor that you download the podcast. Thank you. Please subscribe to the podcast. The Reality Revolution podcast is growing by leaps and bounds. Join the Facebook group, The Reality Revolution. Email me at brian@advancedsuccessinstitute.com or on Facebook. You can see me at Instagram at The Reality Revolution. You can also find me on Twitter at MediaPrime. If there's any questions that you have, if there's any topics that you want to discuss, let me know. I'm always open to everything. And if you would like for me to create a custom guided meditation for you, I would be happy to do it. Let's talk about it. So you can contact me on those places. You can also find our website, therealityrevolution.com. Should be ready to go by this weekend. I'm continuing to work on it, and hopefully you'll be seeing some new articles and even some new clothing that will be tied to the Reality Revolution podcast. We're so excited. There's so many different possibilities. Thank you so much for joining the Reality Revolution. Peace and love to all.